afternoon, this is Derek Chamblee, broadcasting from Chamblee, Atlanta, the next great American city, Battleground Zero, the epicenter of the 2017 civil defense of the United States of America. Beautiful day today in Chamblee, Atlanta. It's winding up on 3:30 in the afternoon. It's Thursday, August 24th, 2017, and we're following the Trump path, of course, breaking news, and this is in connection with several tweets, evidently of our current President Donald Trump this morning, and we're going to pick it up from the Washington Post. This was released just before noon. Headline: Trump is starting to tear the GOP apart, written by Aaron Blake. And before we get into the article, and of course in other broadcasts, we revealed the strategy of our current president, Donald Trump, to basically he's given the grand old party, the GOP, the Republican leadership and the Republican in the House and Senate and in the Republicans in Congress, an opportunity to sign their particular agenda, what's referred to as the GOP agenda, the agendas of Speaker of the House, Republican from Wisconsin, Paul Ryan, who was an anti-Trump Republican, until the point that candidate Donald Trump said, I'm basically going to spend some money in the district in Wisconsin of Paul Ryan to block his reelection to the House. And then we've got the ongoing battle between the Senate Majority Leader, Republican from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, and our current President, Donald Trump. And we want to also point out the other anti-Trump Republicans in the Senate. Republican Senator, U.S. Senator out of South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, who keeps showing up on all the talk shows, all the news talk shows, instead of doing his work in the Senate on the so-called GOP agenda. Well, guess what? The GOP agenda is not the Trump agenda. It's not the Trump agenda. He's giving them an opportunity to sign what they come up with, and he's expressing great disappointment in the time frame that they've taken this long to get the votes together, get a few Democrats on board, as a matter of fact, so he can put his own brand on, for instance, the health care, so-called Obamacare repeal, and then his own brand, Trump brand, on the health care program. And basically all that really Senator Mitch McConnell has said, our current president, our new president, relatively new there, headed into about his 7th month, doesn't know how government works. The wheels of government are turning so slowly. But really, and we pointed it out in other broadcasts, our current president is on to 2020. He's campaigning for re-election with the 2018 midterm elections in sight. He's already having rallies in various states, such as West Virginia, that has a Democratic U.S. senator, and rallies in Arizona and in Nevada. Our current president in his re-election campaign wants to contest the West and is looking at those two states as key states that he can secure in the West. Now, before we get into the article of the Washington Post, they have I guess it's a a kind of saying right under the Washington Post, democracy dies in darkness. And an idea for the Washington Post might be democracy lives in light. Democracy lives in light, a little more positive. But anyway, this is coming from the Fix analysis by Aaron Blake. Headline again, Trump is starting to tear the GOP apart, released earlier this morning, just before noon. And it's got a photograph, leads with a photograph of President Donald Trump along with, next to him, pictured Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And the caption is, President Trump's relationship with Congress has become more and more strained as he struggles to find legislative wins. Now he's going after Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, a key leader in his own party. And photographs by Jenny Stars, the Washington Post. Now, we'll start from the top. President Trump is now openly attacking the GOP leaders of both the House and the Senate. In tweets Thursday morning, he blamed Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, for having, quote, failed, unquote, to replace Obamacare. And he said both McConnell and House Speaker Paul D. Ryan, Republican Wisconsin, created the current debt ceiling, quote, mess, unquote, by using the wrong tactics. Okay, and we mentioned in another broadcast, our current president, Donald Trump, is learning how these things operate. He's going to put his Trump supporters in the low-level caucus positions to become delegates to the next Republican National Convention, and in the midterms as well. In these various House districts and in the states for the Senate races. And then it's coming with, in the article of the Post, it's coming with the tweets from Donald Trump this morning. I requested that Mitch M. and Paul R. tie the debt ceiling legislation into the popular VA, Veterans Administration bill, which just passed for easy approval. They, next tweet, didn't do so, so now we have a big deal with Democrats holding them up, parentheses as usual, on debt ceiling approval. Could have been so easy, now a mess. So, he's directing one of his other statements. He was saying, can't Senator Mitch McConnell cancel some chairmanships, do some wheeling and dealing, maybe with the Democrats even. And doesn't he know how to count votes? So our president is a quick learner. He's a quick learner, and he's way ahead of the so-called GOP leadership once again. He's constructing a new party, like unto the party of former President Andrew Jackson, who was a Democratic Republican. The Democratic Republican Party wrestled the control after the 5th Congress from the Federalists, and through Thomas Jefferson in his election, and ultimately Andrew Jackson in what was the West then, outside of Washington, to you might say drain the swamp, controlled by the central government and their idea, the Federalists, once again, who were opposed by the anti-Federalist Party, in essence, that became the Democratic Republican Party, that upheld the existence of slavery in the introduction of slave states to balance Washington, balance and this was the so-called slave power in Washington, the introduction of slave states and whatnot, that extended at the advent of the independence of Texas from Mexico and the adjoining of Texas in the Union and entering the Union as a slave state, and then the advent roughly 10 years later of the Mexican-American War, where the particular territories were gained of New Mexico, which Arizona was part of, and all the way to California as part of the Union. And this is the West now, and our current president is already launched his campaign to have a greater impact in Nevada and secure for the great old party, Arizona. Now,